Okay, so it was like a fill-in, right? Is that what you're saying? Computers. So use correct Python to code a function header only called calculate. No, it wouldn't be that one. Because that one, oh, right here. Use 2 to 3 sentences to explain and give an example of the difference between copying and. Oh, well, that's terrible the way I worded it. Did you got who all read that I wanted you to type it in bold? Who all read it that way? That was terrible wording then. What that means is in your text in the chapter, the things that were bolded, I wanted you to use those keywords in your discussion. You see what I'm saying? So I need to word that a little different. That shows why I don't like to text and I don't like to email because I'm not really good at explaining myself. I either over-explain it or under-explain it. But what I meant there was because you can use your text, right, while you're answering these questions. So I said anything, use the keywords when you discuss that. So that's what I'm going to be looking for to give you the points is in your 2 to 3 sentences, be sure that you use specific keywords that talked about that. What page was that on? So it didn't matter if it was bolded or not. Or if you used all caps, that's fine, no problem. Okay, where's chapter 3? Chapter 3, and what I was trying to get at, I wanted you to, in your book where it discussed the differences between copying code and reusing code, that should be at the very front, I think, of the chapter. Or it may be in the book. Yeah, that's where it's got to be because I said to use. Reuse code with functions. Okay. Over on page 81, see, I was saying I wanted you to use in your discussion where it says a single copy uses something once. I was just emphasizing up here code bloat. You know, those are terms that are used, terminologies that's used in the computer field or programming field. So I wanted to be sure that you understood in your discussion what those terms mean. Okay. Who understood it that way? That you're just supposed to use the bold? Did anybody? Okay. All right. That's how we all think different. That's a very good example of when you're solving a problem, why I say, you know, people may go about it a different way because we all see the words differently. That's why word problems hurt us so much in school, was because we all, some of us read into it, some of us don't see the detail. It's just different. So I will try to be a little more explicit there, but that should not affect your answer at all, Jonathan or Cole and whoever else read it that way. Whether you used a bold or text or not is not the issue there.
On number 2, I think it was, or the one. No.
3.
Yeah.
Somebody tell me, how do we define a function? DEF. And then whatever the name, what did I tell you the name of it is? Calculate in that question. So you would say define, calculate, and then and then if it's a voided function, you would just have 2 parens there, but it said receives a parameter variable called counter. And actually this could be anything you wanted except for I just told you to name it counter. And then what goes at the end? Colon.
Okay,
now you get it. It was the wording, right? You didn't understand
I was looking at the book and I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's what it's called. That's called the function header. And following that is where the code would go that actually did what you wanted it to do in the function. But the function header is really important to know how to write a function header, because when you make your call in your program to the function, then you have to have the header correctly. Anybody else have one that they want me to go over? Because there's probably more than one. Let's see. Stack frames, that was at the end of, in your bulleted points, it talked all about what the stack frames are and what happens when a function ends, what happens to that stack. Remember? Anybody? What happens to the stack at the end? At the end of in the bulleted points, it tells you all of these things. Are not bulleted points, they're not called in this book. I'm thinking my HTML book, but it says, when you call a function, a new stack frame is created for the function to use. Stack frames and local variables are thrown away when you exit a function. I was just wanting you to tell me that, those 2 or 3 things, what happens with it. And so, because that's what's important that you remember whenever you're working with functions. We talked about that, and then we had somebody's program, I think Jairus's, that it appeared that the function name was known. Wasn't that one of yours that we ran? And so I've been doing some research on that, and it appears that in Python, it's different than other languages. The main is not considered a function, so things don't go away in the main, but if you, like a function like that, any variables that you don't return back to main, they're thrown away at the end when you exit the function. Okay, so we're going to look at some of that today. That's what I'm going to do. Instead of lecturing, I don't know if, because I just changed it real early this morning, like 6 o'clock, I changed Evernote so that we're not going to actually lecture on 4 yet. You are supposed to have read it and started working through the exercises, which I'm going to give you a quiz either Sunday or Monday. It'll be out there for chapter 4, just to see that you've read the terms and things in the book. But we're going to today go over some of these problems, some different problems, and create pseudocode, flowchart, and Python code. We may only get to one of them, but your project 2 has if then else in it. And it also tells you to use a function to modify that. So first I'm going to look at Evernote and let you see for sure. It is. Okay. Oops, that's the wrong one. It's the other class. Go to the right class. Okay, so down here, if we look at this week, this was one that was that you're supposed to do for chapter 3 in place of that Twitter thing. If you did the Twitter thing and it works, don't worry about it. But I just want to be sure that you get some practice with functions, so that's why I gave you that one. Okay, and then I told you to read chapter 4 and start working through the exercises. And this is what changed. Today, I'm going to look at a couple of problems, and we're going to do the steps to pseudocode, because in our book, it doesn't really show us pseudocode, and it doesn't ever really give us a flow chart. And with other languages, it's very beneficial to have that experience, because you need to be able to think about logically how to solve the problem. I know last night I got in a hangout with one of the online students. That's what's on here before. He was having trouble with the project 2. Well, one of the problems was he didn't think through it. He just tried to do it in Python, which I know a lot of you guys, and I know Jairus probably can do that, and Shelby probably do that. But it's better if you think out the logic first without having to worry about, do I have a colon in the right place? Did I use a string where I needed to? Because then when we actually took that pseudocode and put it into Python, we kept having a syntax error in the function when we were working through it, but we at least knew the logic was right. And that's what I'm going to look for whenever you're taking these hands-on quizzes, is if the logic is right. Because if the logic is right, then that's what this class is really about. You can learn any programming language if you understand how to solve the problem. That's the thing. You got to be able to solve the problem. Okay, so project 2, also, if you look down here at the bottom, it's not due until March 18th. And this is some pseudocode that I wrote with the student that I worked with last night. And if you watch that video, you can even see some Python that we had some struggles with. And then test number 2, which will be like this project 2, it will include a function and an if-else statement, won't be until March 10th. So that is that the right date? Is that a Friday? Let me look at this. Let me make sure I got that right. Because I was trying to plan. Okay, our spring break is this week. Yeah, that's that Tuesday. And so Thursday, we'll come back and talk about it and what I'm going to have y'all do for spring break. And then we'll be off. So that'll be the second test will be here that you have to, that'll be the second hands-on one. And so right before that, I'll probably go ahead and put your project, bump that date up until your test, because I usually give you until the test to take that. Okay, so that's what we're going to be, but next week we'll probably work through chapter 4. It's just that the test won't be on chapter 4. What we always do is we lecture a little bit ahead of what you're going to be tested over, because you won't have practiced on it yet, what's in chapter 4. So we're going to go in today. Was there any more questions about the quiz or anything else anybody has a question about? Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to do a couple of problems that are similar to project 2, and then I will post them in Evernote too. Let me get them. I think they are these, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so this one is an if-else problem that is, we are going to look at this one, and then we're going to pseudocode it, and then I'm going to go out to Lucidchart and flowchart it, or I may flowchart it first, because nobody on the test, and I don't think I've had you do flowcharting for decisions, and a lot of students are going in on their flowchart, and if there's like 2 different things to do, they're coming here and like doing this, and like when they multiplied times, I don't know, times the let's see, the last test was it wasn't the one with coffee tables and lamps, I can't remember. But then they come back in here, and that's not the proper way to flowchart. So I'm going to show you, because the flowchart, you only branch if there's a decision being made. And so in if-else's, we're going to be making decisions. That's what it is. And so we need to be able to do that correctly. So this problem, the first way we do it, we're going to do it without a function, and then we're going to pull a function out of it, just like was the requirement, or is the requirement in project 2. Okay? Has anybody completed project 2? Have you already done it? Okay, good. Maybe this will help. Okay, so this one is kind of a funny one. The Happy Cow Ice Cream Company manufactures several types of ice cream. Design a flowchart or pseudocode, but we're going to do both, for a program that accepts an ice cream flavor. For example, if somebody entered triple chocolate, what the price per gallon, they're going to enter, the program accepts an ice cream flavor, the price per gallon, and the number of gallons sold in the average year. You're to display a message that indicates whether the ice cream is a bestseller, which is defined as a flavor that sells more than 40,000 gallons per year. Okay, so how many input fields do we have? What's it asking for the user for? What's the first? It accepts an ice cream flavor. So they have to enter a flavor. They have to enter what else? What's our input?
Gallon.
Price per gallon, thank you. And what's the third one? Number of gallons sold. Good. All right, so those are three things that we're going to get from the user. And the only output is where it says display. So we're just going to display a message, right? So are there any calculations? Price per gallon and number of gallons, but one of those fields is really not even necessary, right? Price per gallon, because what's our comparison? Our comparison is going to be if they sell more than 40,000 gallons. So the number of gallons sold in the average year and the flavor are really the only two things we need, right? That's what word problems do a lot. They put a lot of things in there that you don't need to try and confuse you. Not really, it's just they put all the details, and then when you actually get down to finding the answer, unless it said that you needed to print out all of this, then you would need to get it in. But it doesn't say that, it just says display a message that indicates whether the ice cream is a bestseller, right? That's all it asks for, that's the only output. So it's defined as a flavor that sells more than 40,000 gallons per year. So we're going to have an if statement. We really don't even need the else in here because we're not going to print out anything if it doesn't match this over 40,000 gallons a year. But we may want to display some kind of message that if it doesn't match this, so we know that it actually ran. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody entered 20,000, we might want to put doesn't qualify for bestseller, something like that. Okay, so that we would see what was happening. Okay, any questions about this one? Okay, we're going to go over to flowchart then. That's probably the one that people have the most trouble with. And then when we do the pseudocode, we're just going to copy it directly into our Python here. Does anybody have any questions about what we just came up with? It's pretty simple, right? See, when you break it down, you see that big long problem, and sometimes you think, oh my goodness. But if you break down, all I need to know is my input, my comparison or calculations, and then my output, right? There's always those three parts. Okay, so I'm going to go over here to Lucidchart. Okay, I think my blank one isn't blank. Seems like it was not the last time, but we'll see. Okay. Yeah, this internet connection is lacking. It's much to be desired in our Wi-Fi. Come on, come on, come on. I was going to try, Ken has one that he said I could use, and I forgot to bring the password up here. And I think when I tried it last semester, though, it wouldn't load up here. Okay, I can, this is one that I did and didn't save it. Right. Okay, this one we did in class before. Okay, do we have any constants for this one? This problem? I don't think so. So we're going to, I'm just modifying this, so let me pull this off. Ignore that over to the right because we're not going to have a function first. But I'm going to leave it there so when we modify it. Okay, so we're going to start. First thing we need is what kind of shape? Yes, we got that for the start. What's next? What did I say? We need in, that's correct, thank you. So we're gonna drag this over. And we said that we have how many input variables? 3, right? I'm gonna just do it here and go up here. And let me make it, move it over a little bit. Oh, my whole page moved over. Okay, so I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger text. So I'm gonna make it great big. I think y'all can maybe see it. Okay, so my first, what was the input? What's that? Flavor. Okay, so I'm gonna say, I can say input flavor, or I can say get, whatever makes more sense. Input flavor, and I'm just going to put them in here with a comma. What was the next one? Price. And what was the last one? Number of gallons. Okay, so I'm putting num gallons. Okay, so there's my input. If I want to, I can. Oh, no, I didn't want to do that. Okay, I was going to make it a little shorter, but it didn't want to let me do that. Okay, all right, so what's next? What do I need to do next? Once I've got my input defined, what do I need to determine? There's not. So what is going to determine whether I display a message down here? How am I going to find that out? Yeah, I have to ask a question, right? I have to ask a question. So I do that with what? What do I make a decision with? What do I use? What kind of code do I use? How do I do a comparison? Come on, y'all know you're just guessing too hard or thinking too hard. But well, I do have to use a variable. I have to compare one of these variables. So how do I do that? Right. Decision's a diamond box. Okay, so I'm going to get a diamond. I hope. There it is. I'm going to get a decision box. And how do I state a decision? What do I use? I'm probably not wording it right. What, Jairus, do you know what I'm saying? If, yeah, there we go. Okay, so we want to use an if else. So I'm going to say if flavor is what? Is equal to, or is it flavor that we're testing? Gallons, number of gallons. Okay, if number gallons is, did it say greater than or equal to? Greater than. Okay, if number of gallons is greater than 40,000, right? But we could have used 40,000 as a constant. That would have been one thing we could have done, is declared the bestseller, or whatever we wanted to call it, as 40,000. And then if it changed, we would just change it at the top. You remember the purpose of a constant? Okay, so if I was going to do that, I would need one more box. I'm going to move this one down. Oops. Move this one down. Move this one down. Actually, it does. Doesn't matter where I do it. I could do it there, but I'm going to go ahead and now I got to delete that. There. I'm going to put a box over here that says bestseller. I'll just call it bestseller amount, how about that? Amount equals 40. Oops. I have to make it bigger so he can see it. Equals 40. Okay, I didn't make enough zeros on there. 40,000. So what's that called when I do that? Declare a what? Constant, right? Because, and I did it in all caps. Let me make this a little bigger so you can see it. Then I have to go and make this bigger. Oh, it's still not showing up. Come on. Here it is. Okay, so I made a declaration of a constant. Instead of using the value down here in my comparison, then I will, first of all, I have to make my decision box a little bigger. Make this bigger too. Maybe not there. That'll be big enough, I think. Okay, so down here, what do I need to change 40,000 to? Bestseller amount. Okay. Oops. Whatever I named it, that's what I named it this time. Okay. So I'm going to compare if number of gallons are greater than bestseller amount. So on this side is going to be my yes. So if it is greater than 40,000, what do I want to do? What did it tell me to do? Y'all forget my the problem? What did it tell us? If it is greater than 40,000, what's the only thing we do?
Display the flavor that is the bestseller.
Right. Display a message that indicates that that one is. So we would go, let's put this output box, which I need to erase that. Let me get rid of that so I can make it look better. Okay, so I would say print, instead of balance, I would say print, and then I would put it in quotes actually, because I would say, well, I'd say flavor, oops, not all caps, flavor, comma, and then in quotes, I'd say is a best seller, right? And in my quote, oops. Now that's not exactly Python, but you get the idea. Print, flavor is a bestseller. Okay, so now my line actually needs to go here. I don't know if it'll let me do it this way. That's what I want to do. Should let me make it. I was going to curve it. I am not sure how to keep it from curving, but anyway, it's supposed to be over here to the side. It'll let me pull it once it's over there. Well, let me put the yes out there. Okay, so the other one is I'm going to go ahead and put this box over there too. I'm going to put one of those that just simply says not a bestseller, okay? So this is the no, oh, the no side. It says 10. Print. Not a best seller. And I'm only doing that so that would be the else side. But I really don't, you know, if I say if, it wouldn't be wrong if you didn't do an else side, but it's better programming to let them know, hey, you didn't make the bestseller list. Okay, so this, I could pretty it up here. I didn't make it very nice or matchy. But let me go down here. The big thing is I've used a decision box, and now I'm at the end. Usually the way you do this is you connect them here. And I don't know if Lucidchart lets us do it like that. Let me see. Does it have a connector? I think it does. And it should have a connector. That's what this is. So this would go right here. And then this goes down to the end. And you can make your lines line up and all that. Okay, it's kind of lopsided. This should be a little smaller. Let me go in here. Oops. And, oh, that's at 17, no wonder. I think it's supposed to be like at 12 or something like that. Okay, so now I can make this box a little smaller also. Similar. Okay, so that's my flow chart. Ignore this over here for right now. That's my flow chart for part 1. Anybody have any questions about the way I did it? Okay, so now what do we need to do if we were going to put this in pseudocode? If I go over here, I'm going to use something like, I'm going to try to use Notepad. Maybe it won't capitalize everything like Word does. Come on, get me a new note. Okay, so in here, I'm going to say take, I can actually just take the text out of here if I wanted to, but I'm going to go ahead and type it in. So I'd say start, and that's not very big. Let's see if I can format it better. Font. Oh. I'll probably have to do it for all of it, or it's going to. Okay, so start, and I said a constant, right? So I said caps B seller underscore amount equals 40,000. Okay, next. What was the next thing? What came next? I declared my constant. Then what? Input. Very good. Input. And it would be flavor. Oops, not caps. Not like in caps except for input flavor, price, and num gallons. Okay, I'll pull that out so it's not there. Okay, next, what was the next thing I did? If. All right, so I'm going to do my if. I was going to try to scoot that over so we can see it while I'm doing this. Okay, let me turn those off. Okay. All right, so there's bestseller amount equals 40,000. So then I do my if. So my if is if number gallons is greater than bestseller amount, right? Oops. All right, so if it's greater than bestseller amount, then I want to do what? I know you guys know, everybody's just quiet. Now, Flora was in here, she would tell me. She's not here today. Print? Okay, print.
You said Laura's not here?
Yeah, I said if she was here. Was she sick today?
No, she's not coming back.
She's not? Why not?
That's the problem.
Oh, no, she was a good student. Okay, print. Okay, print flavor and is, so then we would say is a best seller. Else, so my else needs to be lined up there. It's important in Python. I never had a language where indents was important. Okay, else, what do we want to print? If it's not greater, we just want to print not a bestseller, right? Not a best, and we can still print flavor in there. I didn't. Okay, and that's it. Now we want to put that in pseudocode. I'm sorry, in Python, right? So I haven't ever put this one in Python. This was in JavaScript last time. All right, so I'm going to go to idle. I did find out something about idle. If you go in here and do Python shell, it will execute one line of code at a time as you go through there. It'll tell you if that one line has an error or not. It's kind of different. Do you use it that way, Shelby or Jairus? Have y'all used it that way? Idle? No? You don't use idle? What do you use?
I just run it. I added it with the text editor and then just run it.
Run it. Under here?
No, run it with the Python executable.
Oh, with the PY? Okay. But when you do that, it won't just run with the PY. You got to run it in a certain environment.
No, it'll run it. I can run it for you if you want to see it.
It won't on my Mac. It won't on the OS X, I don't think. Does yours do it that way, Shelby? Can you?
I drive it into terminal. The PY into terminal.
Okay, yeah, you could do it in terminal. Like in DOS, that's what you're talking about. Okay. Well, I'm going to type it in here because that's what I showed him how to use. Okay, so we're going to go in here and type. Actually, I'm just going to go into my pseudocode. What I usually start with is just copying this, except for the end, and then you can modify it. It's up to you whether that's easier or more difficult for you. Because this time we're not going to use a function. So we're going to set bestseller amount equal 40,000. And then this would have to say, okay, I need to move this over because the indents are important here. Now, the if, I think, is indented like that. Oops. Print. It actually did. Okay, there's the indent. Then this has to go back to. I don't know why it keeps taking my P the first time. Okay, so input, flavor, price, number of gallons. So I would have to, I want to do these probably one at a time. So I'm going to have to say flavor equals input please enter, oops, that needs to be in quotes. Please, put it in the wrong place, didn't I? Please enter your favorite flavor ice cream. Okay, so then I need to go here and I'm just going to copy and well, I'll just do it this way. Price, oops, equals input. You guys tell me if you'd do it a different way. Somebody tell me. Please enter price. Maybe we should print the price per gallon out. And the last one is number gallons oops. Yeah, that was right. Equals input. Please enter the number of gallons sold per year. All right, so once they do that, that's going to be in a string. But so number of gallons needs to be converted, right, to an int. So I can either do it here in one statement, or you can have a separate statement that does it right before the if statement. I could have said number of gallons, int number of gallons, right? So this way it's saying change what they put in from a string to an integer and put it in number of gallons. Okay, so if number of gallons is greater than, now this probably, does this have to be declared up here as an int? I don't know, in Python. We'll try it this way. You guys probably know. Y'all can tell me if you know. Okay, if number of gallons is greater than B seller amount, print, and then what we want to print needs to be, is that the right value, comma, I'm going to put a space, probably, is, oh, why is that not all in orange? Oh, I know, these quotes, it doesn't recognize usually. Whenever you copy, usually you have to redo the quotes. The is a best seller. Oh, and I was going to put a space here so it's not right up against the flavor. Is a bestseller. Else print flavor is not a bestseller. Okay, y'all think that'll work? No, I forgot something, didn't I? Doesn't there have to be a colon here? Oh, there has to be parentheses, I think, around this. Did yours work without it? I think you have to put a colon and a colon here. Seems like. But I'm not 100% sure. You guys that know Python, tell me, was that right? You have to put the colons?
Yeah.
Does there have to be one there? No, no. But if I say in here, SP15. Let's see, Python. This is ice cream problem. Okay. Okay, let's see what happens. Run module. Unexpected indent. That's what I always mess up on. It doesn't like the, okay, so the first time it doesn't need to be indented, I guess. Is that what it's saying? What about this? I've never had a language that was picky about that. It's usually for readability. Please enter your favorite flavor of ice cream. Okay, what should we enter? And then please enter the price per gallon, say $4. Oh, I bet since I didn't put float, it might not do that right. Please enter the number of gallons sold per year. Let's say this one is a favorite, so I'll say 41,000. Chocolate is a bestseller. So it worked. Let's see if it gets the no one, because it may just be defaulting to that. Okay, so I'm going to run it again. Please enter. I should have actually made $4 and let's see how many. Let's say 25,000. Very good. All right, so this is just a simple example, but now if we were going to put this into a function, what I would do is if I told you, okay, I need the if statement to be in a function, and you would print the message and everything out in the function. So what do I have to pass to it? Let's say I'm going to take this. I'm going to go ahead and take it out, because remember the function needs to be at the top, up here, although it's not. Okay, so now what do I need at the top of my function, Cole? What do I need at the top of my function? Was in the test. Define, okay. So I'm going to go down here. This is my constant. Here's where I'm doing the input. But there's only one thing that I need to pass to the function, right? What do I need to pass to the function for it to work? If this is the main and this is my function, so it says DEF, and this is going to be a message. Let's just call this message. Oh, I hope that's not a keyword. Is that a keyword? Message. Make sure MSG. Okay, I'll try it. Yes, that was a keyword, I guess. Because now, did it turn black? I'm not sure if that one is. So I'll say MSG Best. I'm going to name it. MSG Best, and I have to pass the number of gallons, but so I'm just going to call it the variable gallons in here. Well, actually, it's already number of gallons, so number of gallons. And so down here, I'm going to call it just gallons. Delete. So when I make my call to the function, oh, I left something off. What did I leave off on the function header? Y'all see it? Colon goes right here. And actually, this is going to have to be indented, I believe, now. We'll try it that way, but it'll probably give me the indent error, because on a function, when you define everything, it has to go over one indent, I think. Okay, flavor, input, price, input, gallons. So down here, I have to write the call to my function. So what's the name of my function? MSG Best. And then because I'm not returning anything, I'm just passing gallons to that function, right? So I'm going to print it on my message in there. So that should be all I have to do to make the function work. Do these have to be indented? thought so. Under requires that it be indented underneath the defines. Okay, anything else anybody sees needs to be changed? No? Yes? Okay, I'm gonna say file, save as. This one I'm gonna save as ice cream. Lunch. Okay, here we'll do the triple chocolate, they said. Chocolate, gallon, let's say 3. 10 gallons. Okay, let's see if this one is 4200. Okay, so it worked with my function also, right? So your project tells you to take that one and code it. You take the project 2, tells you to take project 1. So if you have your code from project 1, you should put it in the Python, and then you need to create a function. Here is what it tells you to do, is to create a function. Make it a little bigger there. Why that music note's there? Okay, oh, I thought it would be a little bigger, but it's really not. Maybe a little bit. Okay, so create a function that once they have entered the number of lamps and the number of coffee tables, then you have to have a decision. And this is the part that has to be in the function. I want the if else in the function. You say if mahogany, add $75 per table. If oak, add $100 per table. And if pine, then there's no charge added. Output all the input, use the name constants where appropriate. And so you would probably have a mahogany constant and an oak constant. Okay. And then you flowchart it and pseudocode it, code it in Python, put it in a zipped file named p2_yourname.zip, and put it on your Google Drive. Use these. Now, the first problem, I think people understood, there was a couple of people that used these instead of variables in their program logic. So they just actually hard-coded a 2 and hard-coded a 3 in their logic instead of using variables. So if you're not real sure about variables, you need to talk to me about it or ask a question and I'll look at it. Okay, now what I'm going to do, this one that we didn't get to because it's it takes too long. It was another practice problem, but you're not required to do this one. But if you want to test it, this has if then else's also. And I was going to go ahead and do it, but I might do it and put it out there anyway, so you'll have a second one if you're not sure how to do it. But the big thing is I want you to learn the logic of if-else's before we go on, because these next chapters are really dealing with more object-oriented stuff. And what we used to do more in logic class was make sure everyone understood the 3 main structures in logic is sequence, decision, and repetition or loop. Okay, and so these were all covered, and then functions are part of the modular part. And so this book gives you everything that we used to learn in logic in the first 3 chapters. Okay, so we're getting that down because these are the things that people are doing more data in files and arrays. That's what's going on more in programming. You're writing one of these chapters, we actually write a GUI interface, which means that we're going to make buttons and attach code to them on the screen. So we're going to do some things a little bit more than what we used to do in logic class, okay? It will really help you in future languages. Although he said in script programming, they may change the language to Ruby from Python, but it's just almost just like Python. Has anybody wrote in Ruby? You guys wrote in Ruby? Ruby on Rails. Supposedly that's supposed to be what is being used in cyber now a lot. Okay, any questions? What your assignment is till Tuesday. Hopefully we don't want to have snow by then. I don't know. We don't know yet. Okay, I will get the rest of those tests, those quizzes looked at and over the weekend. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
Did you already grade the hands-on test? All?
No, I've graded some of them.
Okay,